Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining me today. I'm excited to be able to bring the Sherpa platform to Missouri and tell you a little bit more about the work that we are doing already in the states that we're already serving and how we're going to be able to help out all of your communities as well. So thank you for taking the time to come in to visit us today as part of this webinar. We'll also be following up with this webinar for any of those that have registered that were unable to make it as well. So keep that in mind. Also, throughout this, actually, let me go ahead and just jump to the next screen where we're going to talk about the pieces here. I want to make sure that we all have the opportunity to be able to ask any questions that you have throughout this. So I always feel free to post questions there, like we noted here, as far as the items that we want to talk about. And then also, feel free to reach out to us anytime as well. Send us an email, hit us up on our social media, or even give us a call. Happy to be able to talk to anybody, to be able to answer any questions that you might have specifically, if it's something that you think about after this, or something you just want to ask individually one-on-one. So actually, let me get to the first bullet there first, and who we are. So we're Sherpa. We are a content platform that helps communities to be able to highlight all of the great things that they have through the content that's created as part of itineraries, which we'll talk about a little bit here as far as why that's so great and why that really helps communities out. We got started here in Minnesota and Wisconsin with our first two communities, our first two states that we started off with. We're rapidly approaching 100 customers in those states alone. And then actually earlier this month, we actually just started up our co-op program with Arkansas Tourism as well. So we're seeing us growing to a lot of new states. And as part of it, we're doing these introductions. So again, thank you for taking the time to be able to learn more about it here. So let me tell you a little bit more about what Sherpa is, though. So as I noted, we're growing quite quickly. We're the fastest growing DMO platform, actually. We're really built around targeted user-generated content. We'll talk a little bit more about what that means. But just kind of as a high level here, we're an online platform the DMOs utilize to be able to create targeted user-generated content. And we connect those DMOs with both paid content creators and also local community members to be able to create some more diverse and authentic content that they're able to highlight in all of their marketing channels. So that's an important thing to kind of keep in mind what we're able to do to help out these communities. So with that, let's talk a little bit more about, kind of how we help out your community here. So like I mentioned there, the first thing there is finding those content creators to be able to help create more authentic content. That's something that as everybody's seeing through all the different different events that they're attending, all of the different kind of education that we're attending as an industry here, that user-generated content is so important to be able to help share your story. Branded content's always great, but being able to go beyond the brand and having people that are able to vouch for you and say, here's what we love about doing our community. One, it's just a little bit more authentic. Two, it connects really well with those creators or with those community members, those travelers, I should say. And we'll talk a little bit more about that just on the user-generated content side alone. And then the other great thing about this is it's a great way to be able to highlight those businesses and attractions you have, right? So we'll talk a little bit more about the itinerary platform, why it really helps out. But when we're talking about highlighting all those local destinations, this is a great way to be able to do it. And then also people are able to craft their own experiences and, share what they love to do with others through the content that they create, the experiences that they create, and allowing others to be able to follow along and experience it themselves. So those are the other things that we really love to see about that. So, really love to talk about how much more we can help your community, especially through that local community engagement as well. That's the final piece that we like to highlight on all of this stuff as well. As you're getting all of this content to use in all of your marketing channels, one of those groups of people that can help create that content for you are those local community members. So we'll talk a little bit more about that as we're creating the content, but just kind of keep in mind, you as a DMO, you have a lot of work to do to be able to share all of the branded content that you're creating, to be able to share all of the different kind of voices that you want to bring out there from your DMO, from your brand. But then also there's all those other voices that you want to be able to help share. And you can't be the one that's creating the content for them because they're the ones that have their own perspectives. So how can you help highlight those perspectives? Sherpa is one of those really great ways to be able to do that. They can share their stories through the adventures that they create, and then you have the ability to be able to amplify those voices. So let's talk a little bit more detail about user-generated content itself, even jumping a little bit to this targeted aspect of it. So Again, as we mentioned, the trends are really pointing to the fact that user-generated content is really just more important than ever for the marketing aspects of what you're doing. It's really the content that's made by people that are experiencing your community firsthand. So that authenticity really stands out. And then it really helps people to be able to trust that content that's being created as well. So, and then the other piece of that as well is that this really allows you to have just more diverse perspectives. We talked about bringing in the user-generated content from the community members, bringing all of those perspectives, but then even for these content creators that you can work with from outside of your community, getting that outside view of your community can be so valuable. And so being able to do that and doing it through this platform is a really easy way to be able to do that. So, and then finally, that engagement rate from user-generated content is just, so much higher because people are really able to use that as a way that they can kind of judge it against what their experiences are and how they might want to explore your community. And so now let's talk about the targeted aspect of this as well. So we're all familiar, with user-generated content from different social platforms out there that are maybe, just sharing people's experiences, but not really kind of targeted on this DMO tourism aspect of it. And what we're talking about with the targeted aspect here is that through our platform, you're actually able to help drive and direct some of this content creation towards the areas, maybe seasons, maybe events, locations that you need more content highlighting. As you know, the most content you have out there is for your busiest times of the year and for your busiest locations, just because that's where most people are traveling to, right? Well, you probably don't need more people at your busiest locations during your busiest times of year. You want people on your shoulder seasons. You want people going to those locations that are maybe a little bit more of those hidden gems that you want people to be able to discover, right? So through this platform, you're able to focus that in to highlight what you want highlighted. We'll talk a little bit more about that when it comes to content creation with the paid collaborations. But even with the user-generated content coming from your community members, you can help guide that as well. And so that's a really important piece to that, is really just saving you time with what's being created, because you're not having to go filter through all of the content to find those little pieces that you can help highlight in the areas that you want. You're able to really fill those gaps to really enhance all the content you already have out there with the content that's highlighting just the locations you want to highlight in just the times that you want to highlight. So that's a really big advantage of what we're talking about here as well. So, when we talk about content, we have quite a bit of content out there already. On the platform overall, we have over 25,000 photos that are highlighting over 6,000 locations. So you're getting a lot of different communities highlighted, a lot of different locations highlighted, a ton of photos out there that people are able to use in all of their different marketing channels. And so integrating this into your website, using this on your social media platforms, using it in all of your marketing materials that you're helping to highlight your community. And that's something that you're able to get through this subscription, is access to all of that content that you can use in all of those channels. So that's something that is a really big value add, in addition to these itineraries that we're going to jump through in just a minute here. But then just all of the content that's created from those itineraries. And so when we talk about what's in Missouri already, we're just getting started. There's over 150 photos there, highlighting over 40 locations. And so that's something that, it's a start, but there's a lot of room for improvement, a lot of opportunities to be able to highlight more great content there. So with that, let's go through and do a quick demo. Kind of see what we're looking at here for adventures in the content that you can highlight from those adventures. So we're going to walk through an itinerary. The itineraries are the format that we're using to be able to highlight, the content in the area. And with this itinerary, we're going to see a lot of great ways that you can use this content, a lot of great reasons why the itinerary is a great format to be using. But let's go ahead and get started here. But as I mentioned, keep in mind, it's all the content that goes with this itinerary as well, not just the itinerary, it's the photos and the written word also that you can use in all your marketing content. So let's jump in. So first of all here, we have a great title photo and a title that goes with it to be able to draw people in. There's a lot of different ways that we use that to be able to highlight that around. And then right away, we jump into what to expect. So now we have anywhere from a few sentences like we have here, all the way up to a few paragraphs talking about what this adventure is all about. Then we jump into the destinations. So we highlight some of those destinations that we're going to be traveling to as part of this itinerary. And then who created this content? This is an important piece because we want to know what this perspective is, right? So if you're a single individual like we have here traveling versus a young family versus a retired couple, everybody experiences it very differently. And so going to these locations is something that's going to be very authentic to that person. And we're going to go see when we explore each one of these locations how those, what they share about that is really speaks to how they like to explore it. In addition to that, then we have down the left here the what to bring, how long it's going to take, how far we're traveling, how many stops we go on. We have a map that we highlight here as well, just a really quick preview of that. We're actually going to see more detail once we jump into the adventure and explore it. In addition to these adventure photos, we see some of them here, but we'll see them again once we jump into the adventure also. So let's go ahead and explore. Again, like I noted, we're going to see it on the map here where we have all of our stops. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 locations that we're traveling to here. So let's jump to the very first one. So here at the James River Outfitters, we see a couple of things here. We see the description down the left. We have the photos down the right. The thing that I like to highlight with this is from this individual's perspective, right? So he's creating a great write-up here, talking about what they love about the James River Outfitters. They have some beautiful photos that they've created as well to be able to highlight just what it looked like to them, right? So as a traveler, this is a great thing for me because again, I get to be able to relate to how they travel, and maybe how they travel relates to how I like to travel. So it really helps to inspire me on what I would love to do. And then also we have all the information about how I can go do this, right? So, and then as a community, this is a great way to be able to get more content highlighting your community, because you might have 3 or 4 different people highlighting the James River Outfitter. They're all going to have different descriptions. They're all going to have different photos. So you get even more content that you can highlight in all of your marketing channels. So let's jump to the next stop here. We see that we travel over to the Historic White Bridge. Again, navigation to it, we're going to be able to get right to it. So when we talk about the fact that like I can travel along, I can take action and go right along with this person, that's one way that we can do it. We can click on the address here. It's going to bring it up in our navigation. We're going to see the Google business listing for it. So we're going to be able to see what the hours are if this was a business, for example. And so it's a great way to be able to help explore this as a traveler as well. And finally, the next stop here, we're going to take a couple-minute drive and head over to this cafe. Again, great information about the cafe. Love how they highlight the personality of this location, and even give us a great pro tip there about being a small town cafe. So kind of keep in mind as far as what the hours might be on that. So finally, we're going to wrap it up with a place to stay here. Again, providing that beautiful description, just some background information that you would never know unless you had somebody else that was traveling ahead to be able to tell you about this location. And who the owner is and what they love about it, and all these great pro tips that they're adding to it as well. So that's the full experience that we see. Again, great for inspiration, great for even providing a really positive aspect of it, because all the places that we highlighted here, the one great thing about this, or another great thing about this being an itinerary, is we're highlighting the places that we love to go and the reasons why we love to go there. So we're not a Yelp review, we're not TripAdvisor, we're not trying to boil everything down to a star rating or a thumbs up, thumbs down. This is all extremely business positive content, right? So we're saying the places we love to go and the reasons why we love to go there. So for me as a traveler, again, keeping it very positive, I get to see a lot of things that people love to do, right? And then me as a community, I get to have all of these great descriptions highlighting what people love. So great way to be able to have this content. Finally, we jump to the summary, which now we're able to see more experiences in the area, find more adventures around here. You even see more content created by this creator as well. If we had a partner community that we were working with in this area, we'd be able to see their information there as well, so we could go explore more adventures from that partner community. But that's the reason why we have everybody here today, right? To be able to be one of those partner communities. So how do we get this content created? Well, as you see here, we already have Wayward Son creating some content here. So you're going to get organic content like this already created in your community, like we already mentioned with those adventures we already have highlighting your community. So that's one way that we're going to get content, is just through organic content creation. You're also going to get some content from local community members. We have a little community engagement aspect of this as well, where you can invite those community members in to create content. But one of the most important ways to be able to get this content created is what we have through these paid collaborations, working with content creators. So let's go look at that to see what that looks like. So with the content creation from those content creators, I'll actually jump to the next slide here and show what this looks like. What you're going to be able to do is fill out a form that says, here's what we want to highlight in our community. Here's the time that we want to highlight it. Kind of going back to what we talked about earlier with that targeted user-generated content. It's a great way to be able to help focus in on the areas where you need more content. You're going to fill this form out, tell them what you're looking for, what kind of perspective you're looking for, and then this is going to go out to all of the creators in the area who are available to be able to create content. These are creators who are already experienced creating content on Shrpa. They already have great examples, and so you'll see when they apply, this is what you're going to get back. You're going to get the descriptions of why they are a good fit to be creating content for your community. They're going to tell you a little bit more about why they would love to come to your community to create content, when they'd be able to travel there to be able to create that content. You'll be able to see their whole profile as far as what their interests are, what the gear that they bring, who they travel with. Some of the recent adventures that they've created, you can click into the view their entire profile to be able to learn more about them and see all the adventures they've created in the past, which really is a great way to be able to see what kind of photos do they take? What kind of descriptions do they write? Is this somebody who would be a good fit for the collaboration that we're looking to do at this time? And so you're going to get different people for different collaborations that are going to be the best fit for that. And then you're able to choose who you would like to work with. And from there, it takes all of that to be able to help coordinate with them so they can travel to your community, experience it firsthand, and then create 4 amazing adventures, multiple stops, just like we looked at there, that highlight all the different locations in your community. So what we looked at was just one adventure. So imagine 4 of those adventures that are highlighting your community, anywhere from 3 to 7 stops on each one of those adventures. So again, a really great way to be able to highlight your community. So with that, let's go look at some of those creators who are creating this content. The thing that we like to highlight there is the fact that they already know how to create content on the platform. Here's just some examples of some creators who are on the platform already, creating content throughout the area. And you're going to be able to work with these people to be able to create content. They have all different perspectives, all different backgrounds that we're highlighting here. So really great thing about that is we just help streamline that process, right? So usually when you're working with content creators, it can be a challenge of trying to figure out who you want to work with, trying to find the right people, trying to work with all of maybe some of these inbound requests if you're one of the bigger communities out there that have all of these people like looking to work with you as far as collaborations. But it can be challenging because it's really an apples and oranges comparison on where do they create content, what are their prices, where with this, we just simplify that whole process out. You already pay for it up front. You know what the prices are. That's already taken care of. We help you fill out a form so that you know exactly what you're looking for there. They apply to it. All you have to do at the end of it, once they create the content, is give them some feedback. We take care of the payment, 1099 forms at the beginning of next year, all of that we take care of, so you don't have to worry about it. You just have amazing content to be able to use in all of your marketing channels. And across the bottom here, we do see a few of those amazing photos that are just a few of those from the 25,000 plus that we have highlighting communities that they're able to use, again, in all of their marketing channels. So with that, the thing that I want to just ask and have you thinking about here as we start thinking about some of these questions you might want to ask is, what would you have creators highlight in your community? So that's the big thing that I want you to kind of go away from this with is you have amazing things in your community already. You know about those things, but there's going to be even more amazing things that they're going to discover to highlight in your community. What are the things that you're really needing more content to highlight? This is the way to be able to go do that. So with that, I also want to go out. I didn't get a chance when I was doing the screen share. I want to go talk about a couple of the ways that we're using that content. And we have a really great example of that that'll help highlight some of that while you're thinking about your questions. So with that, let me just jump over there real quick. So again, we had all this content that's created through these adventures. So let's go talk about a few ways that you're going to be able to use that content. One of the ways is through the site integration with adventures. So we have adventure integrations that highlight all of these adventures from a community. So we have 4 that we have in this custom integration that we're just kind of highlighting to be able to show what that could look like. We have communities that use all of their adventures and have an entire adventure page that they highlight with that. And all of this comes from just a simple line of code that you drop on your site, and it's dynamic, brings that content in, shows it up really nice to be able to show it in all the different size windows. Makes it super easy for people to be able to explore. So that's one great way that people are going to be able to find this content. Another great way is through the new photo wall functionality that just went live just a couple of weeks ago. And what this allows you to do is be able to grab photos from all of those adventures in your community, be able to get very specific as far as the ways that you want to display it. This is just one of the ways we're displaying it. So we can have load more buttons that show more. We can have it just go a couple of lines across the top. We can have it run across your entire screen. All very dynamic, all really great way to be able to help just really augment your site. So think about all the ways that you can augment your site with this content. That's what it's all about. So then we'll jump in, we'll maybe look at one of these photos. Great way to be able to use this content to see all these photos. You'll see that, and you can even click into the full experiences, see who's created this content, get into all that information about that. Again, just more ways to be able to engage with this content and see then more content on the other side. It's highlighting your community. So with that, let's jump back over to some of those questions that you might have. So it looks like we have a couple of them coming in here. Before we get that, as more questions are coming in, I should say though, I'm gonna start answering some of the questions that we've received in some of the other webinars that we've done on this as well. So first thing here, actually, the one that comes up quite a bit is the question about those photo galleries that we just showed, that photo wall. How does that compare to like a CrowdRiff type of situation on our website? So you might be familiar with CrowdRiff. Really, the use case there on the front end, very similar as far as the way that the look and the feel of it, as you probably noticed. The real big difference is where that content's coming from. CrowdRiff, all that content comes from outside sources as far as Instagram, maybe Facebook, where you're pulling all of that content to be able to show. So then that comes up, you're able to highlight, again, all that user-generated content that's already created out there. And so then you're clicking on that content as a traveler and then navigating through to maybe somebody else's Instagram page. So you're not even getting more content from your community, you're just getting more content from that creator, right? So that's one of the big differences is with here, you're actually getting more content from the community. When you click into that, it goes out to all your adventures from your own community. You're able to get to more content that's surrounding your community. So it really keeps people engaged with content in your community. So the next thing here is this something that small towns can use? That's always, of course, a question there. Is it, what's the affordability on it? Is it something that really works with a smaller town? 100% the case. We have communities that are even less than 1,000 people that are using this platform to be able to highlight their community. So keep that in mind. That is something that we have for communities of all different sizes. Definitely a great platform to be able to highlight communities all over. And as I mentioned, in Minnesota, we have upwards of 70 communities that are using it in Minnesota. And so that's highlighting communities of all different sizes, because we definitely don't have 70 enormous communities that are, really the bigger tourism communities that you might think of in a state. So then let's see here. Oh, here's a couple of questions that are coming in. So how long does it take to do a collaboration? And then do I have to show the content creator around? Great question there. So, for doing in collaboration, it's a really quick process as far as filling out that form. We have some examples there of how you can do that in less than 30 minutes. And then it's about a week process for them to be able to apply. It can be even less than that though. And then when they travel to your community, they have 10 days to be able to create that content afterwards. Usually we talk about it's about a month time frame is what you'll see that content being created. So we kind of give people about that much time. You don't need to show the content creator around. You don't need to come up with the itineraries for them. All you're doing is kind of helping to focus in on what areas you want to be able to feature for that. So that's the way that we keep that really straightforward for you. And then finally, the last question that came in here, like I said, you can ask us more questions via email, give us a call anytime. That's my phone number right there. You can give me a call. If you have any questions, love to be able to work with you on this. But the other question that just came in here is, where do people find this content? So great question there. We are not replacing your DMO website by any means. We are not trying to drive people to Shrpa.com to be able to find adventures about all of these 100 plus communities that we work with, right? The communities that we work with, they're the resources for people to be able to find information about things to do, places to go, events that are going on in the community. We want to be able to help our partner communities to be able to have more content to highlight in all of their channels. So they're finding this content on their sites, in their social media, on their visitors guides, because now this content to be able to augment all of those channels that they're already using. So great question. That's where you find this content. You can navigate through to be able to explore all these adventures from all of those different areas. But again, the whole point is being able to get more content for all of your marketing channels. And with that, that looks like what we've got for questions that have come in. Like I mentioned, email us if you have more questions, give us a call, reach out whatever way you feel comfortable. Happy to be able to go over this stuff with you. Really appreciate all the time that you took with us today. And with that, we'll leave it there and let you get back to it. Have a great rest of your days, and we'll talk to you soon.